Hello and welcome to Magical Travel Adventure. I am Lauren, your host, and today we are going to be talking about the best summer vacations for families. Now, I have a young child, so I often talk about people who have younger children, but this can go all the way up through, high school times for kids because I am also a teacher, so I know what it's like to have high school kids. And it's just kind of interesting to talk about what are some really great options for people and how you can have the best summer vacation. So let's get into it. So, some things to think about is when you're thinking about your summer vacation, there are things that you're going to need to know about your family and your situation and what's going on. So, one of the big things is that you need to know when school is going to start or end. A lot of times, the best deals are right after kids go back to school or right before kids end school. Now, depending on where you live in the world or what kind of school year you have, it's going to range a great deal. So if you don't want to miss that end of the school year or you don't want to miss the beginning of the school year, you want to know when those start times are before you're thinking about those vacation plans. You also want to think like, do you want to do two vacations? Do you want to do one right away after, as soon as the kids get out, and then another one later on? Or are you just thinking about doing one vacation over the summertime and how are you going to fit that in? Another thing to think about, and it's something that I have had to work around, is camp schedules. So, whether or not your kids are going to be going to camps, what that looks like, when they are going, when they are not going, how that can all work. And these camps, you're signing up like months in advance. We signed my son up at the beginning of February for camp for the summer. I was like, why do we need to sign up so early for camp? So, once that's settled, you should be thinking about your summer plans. If you have kids in middle and high school, you're going to want to think about that sports schedule. If they're in sports or activities in school, a lot of times they have to come back before school starts to start doing practices, even though it's like captain's practice. So you really want to know that and think about that. And if your kid's like, oh, I don't know when it's going to be, pretty much like know that they'll have something probably throughout the whole summer, but the closer you get to the school year in high school, there's going to be something if you're in those fall sports. The other thing you want to think about is how long can you go away for? Are you just going for a week? Are you going to be going like 2 separate weeks? Are you going to be going for like more than a week? Are you thinking like the full vacation time is the 7 days, but you're going to have the two travel days on the end? Those types of things. And again, how many of those vacations are you going to have and who's going? So we normally have multiple summer vacation plans, and sometimes they're just visiting either grandmas in our case. So my husband's mom or my mom, and how are we going to see them? And then other times we have vacations that it's the three of us. And then there's times where it's not just the three of us, it's extended family. So who's going on this trip? Because you all have to be together. You all have to figure it out. You all going to have to come up with something. One of the biggest things that right now people have to think about are flights. Flight prices are going to be all over the place. The earlier you can book the flights, the better you're going to do with a deal. So make sure that you're looking at those flight prices and that will help you. And of course, if you have a pet, I don't have a pet, but when I did have a pet, that was a big thing. Could our dog sitter come and watch our dog when we were out of town? Like we had to book her in advance, especially in the summer. This is your time to do it because your dog, they care about you. Your pets care about you. You want to take care of them. And the other thing is maybe you're going to bring your pet with you. Maybe that's what you're looking for. So let's talk about some of the options. My number one option for families in the summer is an all-inclusive. And I'm going to sort of talk about different reasons why. But one of the main reasons is it's one price. You might have to do add-ons and things like that, but you're getting that one price and you're getting those loose plans. You can book that vacation and you don't really have to do that. I don't want to say you don't have to do that much more because there's a lot in that research part, right? As a family, like the biggest part in finding an all-inclusive is the right all-inclusive for your family, for where you're going to stay in that all-inclusive, what kind of service you're going to be looking for in that all-inclusive. Like that's the time sucker for all-inclusives. Because let me let me tell you, there are a lot out there, and they are not all treated equally. And not everything is right. It's not like I can say a blanket statement like, oh, if you want to go here, that would work for every family type. It doesn't. So different ones work for different families. But knowing that, okay, once we have that, again, you need to make sure you're getting the correct all-inclusive. I'm going to be bold here and say there really are no all-inclusives in the United States. They do not exist. And if they say they're all-inclusive, they're not typically. You're paying for something or you're very limited in something in some way. So a lot of times it's food or drinks, and that you have to like add on a drink package or you have to add on the food package. I'm like, that's just a hotel reservation then. That's not an all-inclusive. So just be careful of that when you're thinking about an all-inclusive, right? You have to find the right ones and it should just be an all-in-one price. Now, things like a spa treatment or things like that will be extra. But if you're also looking for those children's programs, you want to make sure that you have a good children's program and one that's going to be okay for your child. Every kid has their own needs, and certain programs are geared towards certain kids while others are geared towards others. And depending on your age of your kids, sometimes if they're in that like tween age, it's like, do they need a kids program, but can I let them go on their own? Like, I'm not sure. So there's all different types of things. If that's what you're looking for, you just have to find the right ones. Or you reach out to your travel advisor like myself and we help you. Because I just got right into this episode because I'm so excited about it. And the other thing about all-inclusives is this is where their weather really shines. So even though where you live, it might be like really hot and humid, or just it might feel a little more oppressive, it's going to feel better where a lot of these all-inclusive places are. And they're paying for the air conditioning. So what difference does it make, right? So it's a little different. So the things to think about are passports. So if you are not going in the United States, you need a passport. A lot of people have been asking me about passport cards lately. Passport cards are not for when you are flying. So if you're going to drive to Mexico, that might be okay. But for most of the all-inclusives, there's some sort of ship, boat, or plane that's going to take place there. So no matter where you're going, you're going to really need those passports for all those kids. It can really vary, but it could take up to 3 months to 6 months to get your passports. Flights. I've been talking about this a lot lately on TikTok, but flight prices and where you want to fly based on where you are, that's a difference. So when I'm thinking about my clients and they're coming from the Midwest, I might have a different option for them than I would if someone's coming from the East Coast and wants an all-inclusive. Because the ease of getting to the all-inclusive is what's important. And certain all-inclusives actually work with the airlines to get flights that make sense that everyone can get to. So you really want to think about that because flights to some of the all-inclusive areas are not great depending on where you live. And the other thing you want to think about is when are you going to go? Because you want to book that as soon as possible for the summer. Now, cruises is our next one. Why would you pick this option? There are so many different cruise options. And even in each different type of person who wants things, like in your group, there are different cruise ships for the different types of people in your groups. So you could find something that's going to fit anyone. And these ships, you have to kind of decide, am I looking for this like amazing brand new ship, or am I looking for a specific destination? So like a lot of people have been going on the Princess Sun, which is going into Europe this summer. A lot of people have been talking about the Icon of the Seas at this time with Royal Caribbean. And those are going to 2 different places. I do a lot of Alaska where I talk about it's about the destination, not about the ship. In Alaska, you're not getting those brand new ships that you're going to see. You're not going to get those mega ships either. So you really need to think about, for this cruise, is our goal the ship or is it the destination? And either one is fine. It doesn't matter which one it is, but you need to know because that's what you should be searching for. If it's the ship, then start looking for that ship. If it's the destination, look at the destination and then see what kind of ships are there so you can narrow down what it is that you want. You also want to look at cruises, obviously, if they have children's programs. Now, typically for cruises, children's programs for kids that are 3 and above, or 3 and above and toilet trained, I should say, do not have a fee associated with them. Those 6 month to 3 year olds, or 6 months to 3 year olds that do need toileting help, that is different. So you just want to look at that, see what children's programs are available, and then go by that. You also want to do cruising at this time of year because it is before the major hurricane season. When does hurricane season start? Well, it could start really anytime, but in the main time that people are going to start looking for it is at the end of August. So that August, September, October time can be not the best time to go cruising, even though you will get the best deals. And you want to know why? Because of the hurricanes. So, things to think about for cruises. Most likely, you will need a passport. This is your research to do about passport cards. Figure it out. You want to think about flights. Again, do you want to fly? I live in the tri-state area, so we can actually just drive to a port, so we wouldn't need to fly. Sometimes in Texas, there are people that can take cruise ships from Texas out of Galveston. There are cruise ships that are going out of California, Seattle, Alaska, Vancouver, like all these places around the world. So make sure that you understand if you're going to fly or drive there. And then a lot of times for cruises, you want to do that pre or post night stay. Typically, the pre night stay is like a given if you're booking with me. You don't want to take that chance that you're going to miss a 7-night cruise over not wanting to fly in the night before. We have thunderstorms in the summer. We have, people not showing up for their flights. So flights are delayed or canceled, or I don't even know what happened like this past week, but like everyone's flights just sort of got canceled for a day. It was just fun. So you want to have that pre-night stay if possible. And post stays are really if you want them, but if you're going home, just go home that day. All right, another awesome place to go is Europe. Why would anyone want to go to Europe? Well, as a family, it's really cool to see different places around the world. And there's no age in which you have to wait to let your kids see Europe or see other countries. I'm saying Europe because it's a very common place to go, but maybe your place is South America. Maybe your place is somewhere in Asia, or maybe someplace in Africa. I was just giving an example that you can go internationally. And Europe is the most popular during this time of year. So why would you want to take your kids to Europe? It's a cultural experience. Whether they're 6 months old or they're 17 years old, they're going to get something out of the experience. It's something outside of their comfort zone. It's getting them to see how different people live. It's helping them to be more flexible in their thinking. It's helping them to see that there's not just one way to do everything. And maybe they'll even learn that public transportation is a big thing in every other country. So maybe they'll get that. There's just more time in the summer to see Europe, and it's just easier to travel around, especially in Europe because everything's so close and it's nicer weather, right? Again, you need to think about those things, those passport, those flights, and how much time you're willing to give. There's also something like the language barrier, which a lot of people are like, I don't want to take my kids because I'm nervous about the language. Well, guess what? You know what else there is? Ooh, look at that. That went all the way back. There's tours. Tours help you because there are all different types of tours out there, right? They're guided experiences. Some are child friendly, some are not. So if you're nervous about the language, you're like, I really want to take my kids somewhere, but I don't know. It would be so much work for me to research and do all this stuff and figure it out. And then I'd have the language and I'd always have to worry about, are we doing this or do we have to go here? A tour kind of takes care of all that things. And again, it depends on which tour you're going to use that will increase your level of comfort and increase the level of details that are taken care of. So if you're looking for a tour that's really for families and that's detailed and taken care of, then that's what you're going to want to research. That's what you're going to try and find. You have to think about here that passports are obviously essential for tours that are outside of the United States. And not all tours are equal. I know that there are a lot of tours out there, and you can find really great ones and you can find really, really bad ones. You really want ones that are going to incorporate your kids based on the ages that they are. So if your kids are in that younger age, you want to look for tours that include kids for those ages. And you want to look at the ages that they recommend that tours go for. Some tours are like your kid should not be 7 or 8. I talk about it all the time that I really want to take my son to Machu Picchu, but I can't do it because he's not of age yet because of the physical elevation of Machu Picchu. He doesn't hit the age requirement to be in that lack of oxygen for that long. So it's something that I have to wait for a few years, which is totally fine. But I know that because I've done my research and I know what it is that I need to do and wait for. So we're working on other things for this year. So you want to look at those age requirements, see what other people have to say about it, those types of things. Again, working with a travel advisor, whether it's myself or someone else, they can really help find you the right thing for your family so that you know that, okay, this is everything that I want. I can have everything taken care of. It's okay. Like, we'll be okay. Someone's going to speak the language. It's going to be okay. All those things. And then the other thing with tours is, again, just like a cruise, those pre and post night stays. So you're going to want to know what that is. You're also going to want to know the food costs that are going to be covered by the tour and what you're going to have to cover yourself. All right, my last one is one of my favorites. It's national parks. And why would you want to go see the national parks? Because they're the national parks. This one, obviously, if you're staying in the United States, it doesn't require a passport. So that's a great option. And I will say that national parks are made for families. They're made for you, and there's so many different options. I live on the East Coast, but oftentimes we want to go explore more of the West Coast or you know, out in Colorado and things like that. So we're looking at those types of things. So it's just kind of fun to think about which national parks can you go to. There's so many books, there's so many maps, there's so many, let's check it off. Those maps that you can like check off, like, oh, we've been to this national park and seen this. And these are things that you can repeat over and over again. It's not like if you have been to the Grand Canyon, you've seen it all, unless you did maybe like a 30-day, like intensive, like walk around or something like that. But there's always different things to see or different hikes, or maybe your kids are younger, so they have to do the easy hikes. And then maybe in 5 years, you can go back and they can do these more challenging hikes. So there's so many different options with national parks. But the big thing that you have to think about is they are popular. Things sell out. There are very limited amounts of places to stay near the national parks that don't sell out. A lot of times it's not, of course, it's not uniform now. During COVID it was, but now it's not. Some national parks, you are required to have a special entrance ticket. Others you do not. A lot of times they only allow a certain number of people in per day. So if you like sleep in that day and you come to the park, you might be in a really long line and not able to get in. There are also different entrances to a lot of the national parks. So if you don't know that information, it's a lot of research. So, and for national parks also, there are tours that are available that are kid friendly. So you want to think about that also. So these are all things you can think of when you're thinking of your summer vacations. One of the major things I will say is it's not uncommon to book your summer vacation a year in advance. So this is, very common that people are like, okay, well, next summer is going to be the big summer. I want to make sure that we go to Alaska. I want to make sure that we can go to the Grand Canyon, or I want to make sure, there's a new cruise ship coming out, or, you know what, I know that we just had a really long year, or, my kids are going to be in sports and we're going to just want like relaxing time and no schedule and do that all inclusive. You can know what your kind of family is going to be like, and you can adjust it. Like if it comes down to it, like 6 months later and you're like, oh my gosh, now my kid's in soccer and so we can't do that week, we have to bump it back a week. It's okay. Like you can make those adjustments, or your travel advisor can make those adjustments. You just have to do them and just not be afraid. Know your deposits. those types of things. But don't be afraid to make summer vacation plans early. You'll get the best price, you'll get the best deals, you'll get the best what you want, and then you'll know you have something to look forward to. So, who doesn't like that? All right, that will do it all for our show today. If you're interested in working with me as I am a travel advisor, you can get the information below and I will help you. And there are some resources down there too if you are looking for anything specific. And I will talk to you next time on Magical Travel Adventure.